A very good morning to you all. Today is 29th June 2020. There are 4 articles of the Hindu editorial page. The first article is on China's calculation and its sense. An analyst should have considered the pandemic's impact and its economy and India's strategy alignment with US. Second article is on PV Narasimha Rao, his personality trait for how subverted to his own place and the consciousness of new India that he helped to shape. Third article is on Pakistan and the terror financing watchdog. Pakistan had bought the time, but it cannot back away from its commitments to FATF, that is Financial Action Task Force. Final article is on the new domicile rules in Jammu and Kashmir. Before I begin, I am Prashant. I welcome you all to Wifi Study Karo. If you are first to my channel, I request you all to subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you cannot miss any further updates. This is a cartoon of the day. As you can see from the picture, it is growing from the other end, that is from the roots. This is regarding the GDP state of any country. It is going to the all-time negative. It is growing, it is declining day by day. First article is on the Chinese calculation. What policy planners in Delhi and possibly those in Beijing have long feared, for example, direct confrontation leading to fatal casualties occurred in Galwan Height in the late evening on June 15th. The number of casualties, 20 of Indian side, was the highest since 1967 and included the high-ranking colonel of the Bihar regiment. The number of casualties of the Chinese side had not been formally indicated, though they had conceded that the least one colonel was among those killed. There are no aberrations. With this incident, it should have been obvious that the die was cast as regards of the future of China-India relations. Nevertheless, there was a flicker of the hope when apparently the Corps Commander of India and China on June 22nd to 23rd appeared that to reach mutual consensus to disengage and embark on lowering tensions through a gradual and verifiable disengagement. This proved short-lived, with the Chinese post in the Galwan area not only being restored but also, from the satellite images available, bigger in the size than before. What occurred in the Galwan Valley or Galwan Heights is on June 15 must not hence be viewed as an aberration. It would be more judicious to view it as signifying a new and fractious phase of China-India relations. Even if the situation reverts to what existed in the mid-April, highly unlikely, India-China relations appear set to witness a new and different normal. The debate on Indian side has so far been largely limited to China's perfidy in violating the status quo. Former Prime Minister Manmohan had instance accused China for brazenly and illegally seeking the claim parts of Indian territory such as Galwan Valley and Pongongso. Adding spice to the debate of a Prime Minister's statement at an all-party meeting on June 19 to discuss the border issue, there was no intruder on our own land and no post in anyone's custody, which raised the opposition's hackles. China's reaction has been consistent. India must move out of Galwan. This is something that India cannot ignore any longer. What took place in the Galwan Heights cannot be viewed as a mere replay of what took place in Deepsang in 2013, Chumar in 14 and Doklam in 2017. It is a new and different situation, and India must not shrink from addressing the core issues that the relations between India and China are in a perilous state. China's assertion of its claims to the whole of Galwan Valley needs close and careful analysis. For one point, point 14 gives China a virtual stranglehold over the newly completed and strategically significant Dharbuk-Shiok Daulat Beg Odli Road, which leads onto Karakoram Pass. For another, the strategic implications of India and China instance on keeping the whole of the Galwan Valley are a series of its fundamental changes and the status quo. Finally, by laying claim to Galwan Valley, China had responded some of the issues left over in 1962 conflict and demonstrates that it is willing to embark on new confrontations. Ambiguity had existed regarding the line of actual control in the sector. The Chinese claims line is that November 1959, while for India the line of actual control is that the September 1962. In recent years, both sides have refrained from reopening the issue, but China had never given up its claims. By its unilateral declaration now, China is seeking to settle the matter in its favor. India needs to measure up to this challenge. The importance of Acacia Chin, a charge that could be leveled against successive administrations in Delhi in recent years, is that while China had consistently asserted its claim over the whole of Acacia Chin, India had chosen to overlook China's more recent postures in the region. The importance of Acacia Chin for China had greatly increased of late, as it provides a direct connectivity between the two most troubled regions of China, that is, Xinjiang and Tibet. This does not seem to have been adequately factored into our calculations. While Indian policy makers such as a reclassification of Ladakh as purely as internal matter, they have overlooked the fact that Chinese military planners the carving out of Ladakh into the Union territory followed later the Home Minister Amit Shah's statement last year laying claim to the whole of Acacia Chin, a threat to Chinese peace and tranquility. On intelligent assessment, in this the context, the questions are now being raised about the failure of intelligence. It is the axiomatic that the leaders make better decisions when they have better information, and the enduring value of intelligence comes from the fundamentality reality. Admittedly, the timing and nature of Chinese action should not have aroused the keen interest in intelligence circles about China's strategic calculations. The Chinese build-up in the Galwan Valley, Pongangso and Hot Spring Gogra did not require any great intelligent efforts. Since there was a little attempt at concealment by China, India has also possessed the high-quality imaginary satellite, that is IMINAT, and the signal intelligence capability distributed between the National Technical Research Organization, the Directorate of Signals Intelligence and Ministry of Defense and other agencies, which made it possible to track Chinese movement. Whereas perhaps the intelligence can be faulted is with regards to inadequate appreciation of what the build-up meant and what is pretended for India. This is inadequate of weakness in the interpretation of analysis of the intelligence available, and also the inability to provide the coherent assessment of Chinese real intentions. Intelligent assessment of Chinese intentions clearly fell short of what was required. If it is at the same time that is true that while India's technology capabilities for intelligent collection have vastly increased in the recent years, the capacity for the interpretation and the analysis have not kept pace with. Advances in the technology, especially artificial intelligence, have across the world greatly augmented efforts at intelligent analysis. It is a moot point whether such skills were employed in this instant. The failure of decipher in China's intentions in the time is no doubt unfortunate, but it has been understood that deciphering China's intention, understanding the China's mind, and trying to make sense of Chinese thinking and are extremely difficult at any time. Even so, since the last year, Chinese economy had begun to show sign of decline followed by COVID-19 pandemic. China is now have to become extremely sensitive to what it is perceived as efforts by others to exploit its weakness. It has often felt compelled to demonstrate that no nation should attempt to exploit the situation to China's disadvantage. India's intelligence and policy analysts obviously fail to analyze this aspect adequately while trying to make sense of China's last forward push. Another of China's current preoccupation, for example, that India is feeling emboldened because of its growing strategic alignment with the United States, should have also been adequately considered by the analysts in any assessment of putative Chinese responses. The principal responsibility for the intelligent assessment and the analysis concerning the China rests with National Security Council Secretariats and India's External Intelligence Agency and the Research and Analysis Wing, and to the lesser extent the Defense Intelligence Agency, it may not, perhaps, be the wrong surmise to that decisions of NSCS to dismantle the Joint Intelligence Committee had contributed to the weakening of intelligence assessment systems. There are limitations of such summit meets. We cannot also minimize the adverse impact of certain policy imperatives. For one, the preference given recently to summit diplomacy over the traditional foreign policy making structures proved to be so handicapped. Summit diplomacy cannot be substituted for careful, structured foreign policy or foreign office policy making. Any number of instances of this nature are available. Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain of Great Britain was also the earliest victims of the summit diplomacy. This disastrous meeting between the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and US President Richard Nixon had a long-term adverse implications for India-US relations. Prime Minister Manmohan and US President W. Bush did establish a rapport through frequent summit meetings, but that was the expectation rather than the rule. Regarding the making a sense of Chinese calculation, what analysts have to consider in this dynamic situation. The next article is the P.V. Narasimha Rao, a subversive insider. P.V. Narasimha Rao, who turned to 99 on Sunday, was arguably the first accidental Prime Minister of India. He was also accidental Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh. A very few, if any, foresaw that the Rao to be the Prime Minister in 1991. No one had expected him to become the Chief Minister of the state about 2 decades before that. Once in the office, on both occasions, Rao brought in reforms that fundamentally changed the destiny of Andhra Pradesh, India. Rao was essentially a mute rebel, intensely uncomfortable with the socio-economic ethos around him. The rebel in him was not in enough a measure to make him an outsider, but was sufficient to mount an intellectual challenge from inside. A combination of his discomfort with the status quo and his unwillingness to roll up his sleeve for an open fight turned him into a subversive insider. In both of the roles as Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh and Prime Minister, he subverted the very structures that he was to define, yet an uneasy beneficiary of. More than anything else, the subversion defines his long, successful but unspectacular political career. Temperamentally, he preferred to avoid open fights. His inclination was for negotiation, compromise, or at the best, a crafty, re-argued action. This perhaps enabled him to occupy the strategic positions and carry out the project, but surely left him with no passionate following or diehard political consistency or the constituency that owns him. In this event, this personality trait subverted his own place in the popular mind of India. As a Chief Minister, he dismantled the political and economic power of the large feudal land-owning class, but without any grandstanding. He did not try to portray his measures as an all-out assault on the archaic structures of economic and social control, but they indeed were. His land reforms gradually squeezed the surplus capital out of the rural economy. The capital made its way on trade, industry and urban areas. The economic landscape of Andhra Pradesh was never the same again. This was unlikely the subversion because Rao was a member of the very land-owning class. The 1991 economic project, his political rise owed much to the decline of regional satraps in the Congress system, the rise of high command culture and a consolidation of socialist pattern of society as its creed. However, Prime Minister and Congress President Rao defanged the arrogant culture and obliterated its socialist creed. His liberation, privatization, globalization program unleashed economic and social forces that changed India beyond recognition from what it was until then. The policy departures under his watch hurtled India to a different and hitherto unfamiliar political economy. Rather than describing it as an attempt to be imprint or append in Nehruvian legacy, he labored to portray it as a constitution or continuation of Jawaharlal Nehru's vision and Rajiv Gandhi's dream, another characteristic subversive maneuver, not a frontal attack. The economic paradigm that introduced then remains unchallenged even today. Since he left office, even major political formation in the country participated in successive central governments or supported them from inside, but none could have overturned the fundamentals of his 1991 economic project. Rao's subversion of Nehruvian economic doctrine is irreversible. He disagreed with the imposition of emergency but was reluctant to break ranks and openly defy his party's commands. The shaping of New India, Rao learned to keep quiet in about a dozen languages. He never claimed credit to his success in Punjab, Assam, Kashmir, and for dousing the fires of the Mandal agitation. He did not effectively defend himself when accused of inaction during the Ayodhya episode. He did not cultivate a regional caste ideology constituencies, nor did he cultivate a personal following. He stayed away from the Pathan-client politics, rejecting him therefore is not assigned to any region, caste or ideological constituency. He partly could easily disown him without a fear of backlash. Today, no group owns or claims him as its own. Celebrating his achievements has no rewards, denouncing him with no punishment, ignoring him has no penalty. There is no one to celebrate his achievements in life, no one to bemoan his humiliation in death, no one to make a spirited perhaps. His subversive streak did not spare his own legacy. The Telangana government has begun celebrating his birth centenary on the grand scale on hopes that its efforts would reclaim Rao's rightful place in the popular consciousness of New India that helped to shape. This is regarding P.V. Narasimha Rao, a subversive insider. The next article is on Pakistan, the terror financing watchdog. According to the reports in Pakistan and India, the Financial Action Task Force, the global watchdog group, had decided to grant Pakistan and other countries of its watch list of 3-month extension and fulfilling commitments in view of pandemic. The Pakistan was placed on a grey list or increased monitoring list in 2018 and given time until October 2019 in order to complete 27-point action plan on counter-terror finance and anti-money laundering, or failing which it would have put the blacklist on high-risk jurisdictions facing severe financial sanctions. This means that in effect Pakistan will have had at least one extra year to meet its deadlines, but despite the fact that it has only completed 14 points so far, the remainder is still a tall order and includes improving mechanics to curb terror financing, amending laws to curb Hawala transactions and placing sanctions against the cash couriers who facilitate terror groups, completing the prosecution and groups banned by UNSC and converting madrasas to run them by them into former schools. Each items demand more accountability by Pakistan on terror groups as well as shift within its ruling establishment on the benefits of allowing such groups to exist at all. Despite this being the Pakistan's third stint on the FATF watch list, that is prior occasions were 2008 and 2012 to 2015, there is a little evidence that it has yet internalized that message. In US report on terrorism released last week, Pakistan remains a safe haven and from the most UN proscribed groups. The report also adds that its steps to prosecute certain leaders, that is JEM and LET, are inadequate. In the past year, Pakistan have pursued indictments against LET leaders but have not serious charges. Even a 26/11 mastermind Hafiz Saeed had only been convicted for being a part of banned terrorist outfit and not having legally or illegal property. Meanwhile, the LET operation commander Zaki Rahman Sajid Mir and JEM chief Masood Azhar appears to be at large. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan's reference on its parliament to Al-Qaeda founder Osama bin Laden as a martyr underlines the establishment's attitude of these groups. Pakistan's failed attempts to have the UNSC designate of 4 Indians as a terrorist last week, it also vetted by the US, speaks it to lack of credibility on this issue. Pakistan is now counting a role in facilitating the Afghanistan peace deal by pushing Taliban leaders to participate in the order to mitigate its trouble at FATF with the support from the country keen to conclude the Afghan deals may even ensure a few more extensions for the government. Eventually, given the rigorous FATF action plan, the combined pressure on the countries in the group, Pakistan would do well to realize that only to clear consistent actions would free it from the commitments of FATF. In any case, giving a free rein to terror group cannot be in its own interest. This is regarding the briefing reprieve on Pakistan terror financing watchdog, that is Financial Action Task Force. It has given a time over the 1 year. The next article is on the domicile rules of Jammu and Kashmir. New domicile rules that followed the termination of special constitutional status in Jammu and Kashmir, which was reorganized into union territories, have now brought succor and hope for the segment of its population that had contended with the fragmented citizenship rights for the long. This group of 2 or 3 lakh people is made of the refuge from Pakistan, sanitary workers resettled from other parts of India, and Gurkhas who arrived as soldiers before independence. The erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir gained special powers, define its permanent residents, and restrict land, educational and employment rights only to them. This cohort was not classified as a permanent residents, leading to the denial of opportunities to them in education and employment and politics. As such situation is not merely unjust but also untenable. Subsequent to changes in Article 370 and 35A in August 2019, in March 2020, the concept of permanent resident of the state was discontinued in Jammu and Kashmir. As per the new domicile rules, the persons and the children who have resided for over 15 years in Jammu and Kashmir or have studied for 7 years and have appeared class 10th and 11th exam in an educational institution in the Union Territory are eligible for the grant of domicile. Besides mitigating the historical deprivation of one segment, the changes will enable many other currently living in Jammu and Kashmir to get a domicile and associated rights. Not everyone is rejoicing with these rules. Though these are the concerns that changes in the domicile rules will lead to a huge influx in the region, a more uncharitable interpretation is that the deliberate scheme to change the demographic character of the region is unfolding. The National Conference of the People's Democratic Party, both valley-based parties, have reiterated to their oppositions to have changes. In Jammu region also there are concerns that there could be dispossession of the land and shrinking of economic opportunities for the local people. Movements of the people across the political and national border have been a constant feature of progress, and arguments over who are original inhabitants of the place serve little purpose than to accentuate political polarization. Economic growth and vitality of the social often positively correlate with its openness towards the outside world. Communities that are not equipped to negotiate with unfamiliar market and cultural forces need some insulation. It is arguable that with relatively high rates of literacy, education and material standard, Jammu and Kashmir is not susceptible to any demographic or economic takeover by immigrants. Movements into the region will be largely driven by economic reasons. A straight-driven re-engineering of the demography of any place is not desirable or democratic, but the fear of such scenario is not a good reason to revert or retreat into the cocoon of nativism. Regarding the new domicile rules of Jammu and Kashmir, how the opposition to the new domicile rules is rooted to the old fears and new suspicions. That's the end of article discussion. If you are new to my channel, I request you to comment and subscribe, like and share if it is useful to you, and please do comment how you felt this video. This is my Facebook page, Wifi Study Karo. This is my channel name, and you can also follow me on Insta, Wifi Study Karo. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.